In a state like ours, where 2/3 of the land is owned by the federal government, almost everything that we do requires a permit from a federal land management agency, typically the Bureau of Land Management. It's much more difficult to get those permits if there are endangered species that might be affected. And every time you're setting foot on federal land, you're potentially implicating any species that may be listed as threatened. Now look, the sage grouse population is still thriving throughout the United States and throughout the state of Utah. It has, over the last few decades, diminished a little bit, but it's still doing well. But if you were to list this species as threatened or endangered under the Endangered Species Act, it would have a devastating impact on the economy of our state and on the economies of half dozen to a dozen states throughout the western United States that also have sage grouse within their borders. And this is why the states need to have the opportunity to implement their own conservation plan, to save this species on their own in a way that works for their own state. You see, decisions like these affecting people on the ground in real communities like yours need to be made by people close to home and not by government bureaucrats in Washington. A couple of weeks ago, the House of Representatives passed the National Defense Authorization Act. It included in this legislation language that would have empowered the state of Utah and other states throughout the Rocky Mountain West to implement its own sage grouse conservation plan. This provision articulates what I've long believed, that is that people living in Utah's communities are better equipped than federal government bureaucrats in Washington to solve Utah's problems. So, looking to ensure that this provision became law, I attempted to amend the Senate version of the Defense Authorization Act to include the House-passed language. 11 other senators representing states from Kansas to Idaho and a lot of states in between co-sponsored my amendment and helped me with this effort. The problem we were trying to solve was simple: how to protect the sage grouse while at the same time ensuring America's military readiness and also making sure that our economic needs are taken into account and aren't devastated by a possible decision by the Fish and Wildlife Service to list the sage grouse. The good people of Utah, I think, have the answer to this question. We have to remember that in April of 2013, the state of Utah released its sage grouse state conservation plan. This was a plan that was built on a previous state-led conservation effort. The state of Utah invested thousands of hours and millions of dollars to coordinate across numerous agencies and put forth a conservation plan that would help balance the sage grouse conservation effort with other economic interests and also military interests. And it's already working. Utah's sage grouse population has thankfully increased almost 40% since 2013, according to the Utah Department of Natural Resources. Now, given our success, given the state of Utah's success with that effort, you would think that my fellow senators would support my effort to empower Utah and other western states to protect the animals living within our borders. But no, Senate Democrats and some Republicans united to kill this amendment and to prevent Utah from managing the sage grouse. This attack on Utah's sovereignty is indefensible. That my amendment is even necessary, that we have to ask the federal government regulators for permission to independently protect threatened species within our borders, I think really tends to illustrate how much work we still have left to do. Although my amendment was defeated today, I will not stop fighting for you. I will wake up tomorrow just as I did today, and I'm going to try to unburden you and other people throughout the state of Utah from this oppressive yoke at the federal government. But I need your help to do it, and I'd like to invite all within the sound of my voice to join me in this effort to get Washington out of the business of the people of Utah.